Hey, what's happening, everybody? Another bouncy day out here at Halas Hall, where this episode of Take the North is taking place, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. As usual, Dan and I are in different parts of the building. I am in the NFL Network studios like I usually am. Dan, it looks like you're in the atrium in front of a big bear.
Mosaic bear.
It's a mosaic.
I see Ted Washington. I see Sid Luckman. I see Neil Anderson.
Oh my God. Wow. That is the Ted Washington really stands out there. I love Neil Anderson too, man. I mean, I know like Neil Anderson, he was the one who succeeded Walter Payton. So that was kind of tough for a lot of people. But to replace the greatest, man, Neil Anderson comported himself pretty well for a lot of years.
Did pretty well. You're not kidding. And he's here on the Mosaic bear.
Yeah, he's a mosaic bear. Dan, I would describe today as a bouncy day out here, an edgy day out here at Halas Hall in a lot of ways. An 0-2 team who obviously has been challenged by their head coach to practice at a higher level. I will say that the Bears practiced indoors today, and the answer that I did get from Roma Dunzia on the why portion of that they practice indoors, he said that it's practicing indoors will better simulate what they expect the climate to be like at Soldier Field around 3:00 when the Bears do kick off with the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm just looking at my phone here. It says a high of 75 and a low of 65 on Sunday in the great big beautiful city of Chicago with clouds. So I guess it does make sense. At first I was like, huh? But I guess they didn't want 2 straight days of blistering humidity and heat. And it is very humid out here at Bears headquarters today.
With that reliable weather app that you have in front of you, what does it say about the wind for Sunday?
I do not have a wind forecast here.
Possibly not windy.
So
you can't get wind indoors inside the Walter Payton Center. I know that. This is I'll be interested to know. It's a question to ask Ben Johnson on Friday to get a little bit more insight into why they made that move.
Yeah.
Historically, usually a lot of times you get offensive coaches who like to go indoors more than defensive coaches, but it's usually not in September when it's still really nice out. It's usually when you get into the deep parts of October and into November and they start pushing some practices inside. That one's a little bit new to me, but we'll see what it means for Sunday afternoon.
My guess is, or was, and I said this out loud on the radio earlier, is that the practice that the Bears had on Wednesday, today here on a Thursday as we're recording, was compared to by Kevin Byard as like a training camp practice. It was long 2-hour hard practice in the heat, in the humidity, and it has been humid. I mean, it hasn't been 90s or anything like that, but it is 80s, as people know. So that's my best guess, or maybe it's what Rome said, and they just think that's more of what it's going to be like. But you're right, that probably requires one more quick question to the head coach.
The other part of this comes a day after the head coach told the world that this team is not comporting itself at practice with championship caliber habits yet. And so that's obviously the story of the week, right? I think we're going to get into that a little bit here from the outset. And you're just very curious to see how players respond to that public challenge, how results are driven from that public challenge, and what this all looks like. You talk about the edginess. 0-2 is heavy in a lot of ways. 0-2 coming off of 5-12 is even heavier. And then 0-2 with the prospect of going 0-3, I think is adding to the tension level around here. And so you just fast forward to Sunday afternoon and you're like, man, what are we going to be experiencing when we get on the elevator to go down to the post game on Sunday? Did they win? Did they lose? And what does that do to the entire emotional wherewithal of this entire organization?
Yeah, well, Grady Jarrett told me today, without telling me, that he didn't particularly care for Ben Johnson saying that they weren't practicing at a high enough level, because I said, I mean, he excused that Ben Johnson said it by saying, hey, we're 0-2, and if that's what the coach says, and we all got to get out there, we got to try harder. And then I followed up with him with, is he right? And then he just said, hey, man, we're just looking to get out there and play hard and do, you know what I mean? Like that was his way of saying, I'm not going to answer your question because I don't believe that is the case, or that he doesn't want to hear it about him, because as we know, or getting to know Grady Jarrett, he doesn't seem like the type of guy who would get a lot of loafs, if I may steal from Ben Johnson's predecessor.
No, you're right, and so like that's where you start to kind of have to read between the lines and try to figure out where the void is occurring and what's not up to snuff, and all of those things need to recede, and they recede quickest when you get some results on the field on game day that allow the tone and the mood to shift a little bit. We were just having a conversation in the corner of the media room, myself, Jeff Joniak, the great Dion Miller of ABC7, and just talking about how the cumulative nature of all this losing creates that's just a vibe here that's got to go away, right? Like it's just been here for too long. And you and I talked last week, Mark, about the Lions going, almost 3 years now since they've had a 2-game losing streak. And then you're here and you're just like, oh, that's possible in the NFL world. Wouldn't that be nice to have a stretch here where you get a string of wins that you can carry through a month of coverage and have everybody's mood be a little bit different? But to your point, it is a little bit tense here in this building this week, and you can feel it when you walk in.
Yeah, and Kevin Byard, to your point that you're making right now, said he used the terminology "the sky is falling" and saying that he's had to talk to some of the younger players and let them understand that this is, while it's bad, it's not the worst thing in the world, and you got a game to play on Sunday and all of that. That said, why don't we get into it here? I got one cut here from Grady Jarrett, and the question that he was asked, and you will hear a sort of crescendo of frustration, I will call it. He was just simply asked the question, why do you think, Grady Jarrett, things are headed in the right direction for the Bears?
Choosing, positivity. And at the end of the day, we got to continue to choose us and believe in the work that we put in. Whatever the validation, pats on the back, it's not going to come from the outside world. And to be honest, it's really making it easier for us when we do have the success that we expect to have to block out the noise when we do get the pats on the back, because you would think playing for this city, playing for this organization, will get a little more support on the end, certain things, and people really pushing for us. And obviously we got a lot of stuff going on, but at the end of the day, it's pulling us closer together and making us focus more on the things we can control. But when the day do come that the ball do turn our way, it's going to actually help us be more focused on the things we can control, because we know how we were received and how we were talked about when things was a struggle. So when people, when you're down, sometimes people want to kick you when you're down. So when you're up, you just be able to focus on the ones that was there when you was going through it, when you was down. But at the end of the day, guys, we 0-2. That's no excuse, but it's early in the season, and everything that we want is still ahead of us. And the teams that we lost to were 2 really good teams, but we get an opportunity to see both of them again, And so that's the exciting part. And we may be down, but we're far from out, and we just getting this thing cooking.
Dan, what'd you think of that?
I would sit down at a lunch table with Grady Jarrett twice a week if they allowed me to. Because I
he's
enjoy
your kind of guy. Yeah,
he is. I enjoy listening to him. He's all passion all the time. That particular bite, he kind of goes down 3 or 4 different roads and then gets back to the main road. But there's a passion behind it, and I love it. And I think it's why he's a captain. And I think it's why guys respect him and will follow him. He's got to get healthy. The knees got to get to a place where he can be an impact player on game day. And then ultimately, like he says, they've got to turn this thing, and then maybe the tone will turn once they turn the results.
Yeah, and he's kind of, it's hard to tell because, as you said, he's kind of all over the place. I feel like he's calling out us to some degree. When I say that, I mean the media and those that are writing and ripping and hot taking on the Bears, and probably the national media too, because that's probably what they pay attention to more.
And or fans that are popping in the mentions,
Yes, the mentions and the booze. I mean, welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Bears. And look, Atlanta ain't a small market, but this is a way different market. You know what I'm saying? Like there is an urgency that exists with the Bears that doesn't exist in every single market and every single city, especially based on the Bears having lost 10 straight games last year. And you mentioned the injury. Grady Jarrett officially, why don't we do this really quick here for Thursday? Again, we're recording this on a Thursday. Grady Jarrett limited with that knee injury. Best guess is that'll play, because typically these guys aren't going to be so front and center and talking to the media if they don't feel like they're going to play. So my guess is Jarrett will be fine, but we'll wait and see. DeAndre Swift was limited, but man, not practicing today. All the big names still on defense, Dan. Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, linebacker DeMarco Jackson, Karan Amagaji and his elbow injury, not practicing today either. that does not portend well for their chances of playing. We don't know yet again, but that doesn't feel particularly good.
Oh, no, we know on those first three. Jalen Johnson obviously not playing Sunday. TJ Edwards not playing Sunday. Kyler Gordon not playing. Those guys are not playing this week. They're probably not going to play next week with the bye right behind it. And so this is what you have to work with. And we'll get into our predictions in a little bit because it does require a leap of faith that Dennis Allen knows what he's doing with the next men up to be able to put this defense back together in a way that's functional on Sunday afternoon. But it's not easy to do because you're now dipping into your depth and you're trying to find the quality there and the things that you can do both schematically and with lineups to help you. And it's a challenge because you're going to have to potentially keep up with the Cowboys in this game. And part of not having to keep up so much is having a defense that can slow them down just a little bit. And so look, like you mentioned the edginess here. Dennis Allen, true to form, was not eager to take a second question on last week's loss to Detroit. Richard Hightower stood up at the lectern today and seemed to be 2 dials cranked up in terms of kind of his posture at the podium. And so like you can feel it here, and it's the only way it changes is with victories, Mark. And that's the thing that everyone in this building has to come face to face with when they look in the mirror, that you can feel a certain way, but the only way it gets flipped is if you win.
It's the proper tone. There's no doubt about it. I thought the Richard Hightower stuff, though, was a little bit weird because we're talking about Jake Moody, and that's the kicker that the Bears signed to the practice squad recently. He had been in San Francisco for 3 years, and when Hightower was asked about it, said good player with good talent, and then what he kept sticking to was, quote, our personnel department does a good job of combing the entire league, young developmental player that we're excited to work with, that's on our practice squad at the moment. And then he was asked, Dan, is he challenging Cairo Santos? And then Richard Hightower, again, the special teams coordinator, said kind of tersely that the head coach has already spoken about that. And what Ben Johnson said is that it's not an open competition. And I'll just say, like, we're not playing the audio of this right now, but Richard Hightower sounded pretty defensive about it. Like he had his answer, his stock answer was our personnel department does a good job of developing young players, and he wouldn't come off of that. And I assume it's just because he's protecting Cairo Santos. He doesn't want to hear anybody breaking bad on Cairo Santos.
It is what it is. And it's, worth keeping an eye on because it's complicated, Grote. Like you don't just bring in a practice squad kicker who was a day 2 draft pick not that long ago at the same time that your own kicker has had notable struggles and just say, oh, no, nothing to see here. Like there's something to see here. And we're smart enough to understand that. The public is smart enough to understand that. And so we'll just kind of see if Cairo can regroup this week and put together, the most clean performance of the 3 weeks so far. Well, one foot in front of the other, right? Like to put it best for a kicker. That's the only way you can approach this thing. And hopefully Santos makes this all a moot point.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing about it. I mean, my thought is that the Bears are doing the right thing, that they are covering themselves because Cairo had some bad moments last year. He's missed a field goal this year. He couldn't kick it through the end zone in that opener. So I look at it as, okay, I'm not expecting like some sort of weird surprise part. All of a sudden, Moody is active on Sunday, but let's just make sure that you have the right guy and that we've seen seasons, Dan, get derailed by the kicker. We all live.
When?
I mean, as great as 2018 was, that is not the part that we would wax poetic about. And then having a 10 kicker tryout in 2019, which the more I think about that, what a joke that was. I mean, us all being hyper obsessive, having individual conferences with all of these kickers. So I actually think that I am complimenting the Bears on this one. Make just in case, I like Cairo, and Cairo could last 17 games this season, but make sure your ass is covered.
This all goes back to what we've been talking about all week, and it's that there's literally nothing with this team right now that feels stable. and solidified, right? And that's the problem, is it's across all three phases where you're trying to fix things. And it's like, okay, we are, at a state with this football team of trying to figure out what there is to believe in. And right now, when you've got these issues across all three phases, it leaves everyone kind of, getting whiplash on where to turn next. And you describe this as a bouncy day. Sometimes that bounciness can create whiplash when you're trying to find all the problems that exist.
I think the calmest guy in the building today
wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. It's never you, man. You're more Grady Jarrett than Declan Doyle. Declan Doyle today, the Bears offensive coordinator, was asked what, because I think we all agree it was better for Caleb Williams in week 2. Doesn't necessarily mean it was good yet. And I think the answer that you're about to hear sort of reflects that. Here is Declan Doyle on specifically what has gotten better for Caleb Williams from week 1 to week 2.
I think that he did a better job of playing through, with his eyes and some of the concepts. Just his general process, that was cleaner. Just, getting up the line of scrimmage and going a little bit. We utilized a little bit more tempo in that game just because it fit. But that was something that, our operation was a little bit better and a little bit cleaner from that perspective. The ball, and that's the expectation every time we're out there.
How do you feel like Caleb's footwork has progressed even from week 1 to week 2?
I feel like it's getting better every week, but it's still something that he'll stand up here and tell you this is something that he's really working on. I think I talked about it last week. Your eyes and your eyes lead your feet, and those are really the two things that we're working on, the process, and then his eyes matching his feet taking him through progressions. I saw it continue to progress, but it's something that still we're going to go out there today, and that's going to be one of our main focuses.
So what this tells me, Dan, is yes, it got better with the eyes. It got better with the feet, but clearly still a work in progress. It does, because it got better, it doesn't mean it is good. And whenever you hear an answer from a coach where they say, "Oh, he'll tell you," he'll stand up there and tell you, that means that is the footwork is not quite where they want it. His eyes are not quite where they want them to be. Those clearly are the two biggest things that they are working on with Caleb Williams. And hey, Ben Johnson went out of his way to compliment his counterpart for this Sunday, Dak Prescott, on how well he sees the field and how good his cadence is and how they need Soldier Field to be loud. And I'm not necessarily saying that Ben Johnson was talking to Caleb Williams, but I definitely know that those are the things that they want for their young quarterback too.
You're not necessarily saying that he wasn't talking to Caleb Williams either.
See, when I use the word necessarily, I am disclaiming myself. I'm protecting myself.
You made a lot of good points there, and I think it is very notable what you said about better not meaning good. And if it's not good yet, it can't be great. And so there is a process to this. There is a stair step to this. I made some comments on 670 The Score on Wednesday morning about making certain that we remember why Caleb Williams was drafted here. He was drafted here as the number 1 overall pick in 2024 to become the star that produces championships and produces contention year after year after year. And so the streamers can't be popped, Grote, for the footwork's getting better, right? Like, it's fine to note it right now, but eventually there has to be an escalator to this whole thing, to where Caleb's playing the type of football that number 1 overall picks are supposed to play. The QBPP, you remember the QBPP? We talked about that, I think, in the offseason. You down with QBPP? Yeah, you know me. The quarterback protection program is out in full force right now on the social media front. There are people so fully defensive of Caleb and Caleb's future. And all of these things that these coaching staffs lay out for us week after week help you to get an understanding of where their eyes are, right? And what they're looking at and where they see development and what's important to them. And I will say that Declan Doyle has been a very pleasant surprise since the spring. I think he's married up with Ben Johnson in terms of people that give you a lot of information about how the quarterback position should be played under their watch. And it gives you a lot to kind of to judge when you're going through the evaluation of Caleb Williams week after week.
Let's move on to our next segment. It's a new segment, a segment that we love here on the Take the North podcast. It is our Game Spotlight segment today, and I will tell the people, and I played this on the score, and it was hilarious, Dan, because Dan Wiederer asked DJ Moore today, is it going to be awkward seeing Matt Eberflus? And DJ Moore just said, no. So, but that is going to be a big deal, of course. Maybe not so much that Flus is at Soldier Field. It's always like that when the next coach comes back, but you got Flus, who knows Caleb Williams very well and understands the Bears offense. And then on the other side, as DJ Moore was talking about it, he understands the elements of Flus's 4-3 zone loving defense and hoping that Flus will do some man-to-man as well, because any wide receiver worth his soul loves a little bit of man-to-man. But Dan, I know you're working on the Flus angle for The Athletic.
Yeah.
What do you make of all of that here in our Take the North game spotlight?
It's multi-layered, and the first layer is the awkwardness of this return. You know, the last time that Matt coached at Soldier Field was November 24th of last year. The Bears rallied from 11 points down in the final 2 minutes there to force overtime against the Vikings. And for a moment, Grote, you remember that afternoon, we've talked about that final pass from Caleb Williams to DJ Moore that set up the game-tying field goal by Cairo Santos. And it felt like, oh boy, the Bears aren't going to steal a win, and this season's going to have a flotation device, right? They're going to be 5-6, and everyone's going to be able to take a deep breath. Alas, everything that happened with the 2024 Bears was that it all goes to hell, and it all went to hell later that day, and it just continued to go to hell 4 days later when they went to Detroit. And so Matt has not really been back to Soldier Field since all of that craziness happened. I'd imagine there's going to be some weird emotion about that return. I think there's going to be a reception that, while it may not be hostile or chilly, it's certainly not going to be warm. And so Matt's going to have to navigate that when he walks in there. Now, the second part of it, the second layer, is, of course, this chess match. It's this chess match between Flus and Caleb. It's this chess match between Flus and Ben. And one of the reasons you make a hire of a guy like Ben Johnson is because you believe that he's got the aptitude in a matchup like this to find answers for his young quarterback, to understand the ins and outs of Eberflus's zone defense, to figure out spacing, to find out where the holes are going to be, and to set his quarterback up for a day where, against a heavy zone D, there are opportunities to win. There are opportunities to distribute. There are opportunities to make plays that produce a win. And so I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch that game go back and forth, to see what each coach brings to the table, and then to see how they respond to what the other guys bring to the table. And I think you'd agree that there's some theater to this, given that Caleb is the quarterback that Matt Eberflus was in charge of developing, and now he's trying to frustrate him more than he frustrated him when he was coaching him.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And, you know, Flus is, no matter what he is saying or what he will say between now and game time, of course he wants to beat the crap out of the Bears. Why wouldn't he want to? I mean, they made him do a Zoom before
That's
he
not
was
easily
fired.
forgotten. That's not easily forgotten. And nor is it easily forgotten that your quarterback, who you gave a lot of grace to and probably too much wiggle room to in 2024, then told the author of a book that you didn't get the type of coaching guidance that he didn't get the type of coaching guidance that he was hoping for. And so look, like these are very competitive people in a cutthroat world that remember things, you know that. And so, as nice of a guy as Matt Eberflus is, I'd imagine that in the recesses of his mind, there's a dark side there that wants so badly to leave that building on Sunday with a victory and a little bit of a chance to say, ha ha.
Yeah. And if he has any wrinkles that he's been holding back on in the first two games, there's some creativity. I got to believe that the Flus is going to want to use that against the Chicago Bears here. And then on the other side of it too, like Ben Johnson, not the first time he said this, he said some of the toughest games that, you know, when he was the offensive coordinator, was going up against the Bears and the Matt Eberflus defense. That obviously wasn't the case in the first half of the Thanksgiving Day game last year, where the Bears defense just sucked, giving up, you know, some huge, astounding numbers before really, really bad things happened in the third and fourth quarters. But there does seem to be heavy mutual respect.
And let's be honest, Sunday's matchup downtown on the lakefront comes down to a 3-word question. What's up yours?
I'll say it again. I hope, like if fans want to boo the Flus, I get it. I understand it. It's sport. Like that's the way. I just hope he's not harassed sort of the way Ben Johnson was harassed. Completely different story. But look, he's the first coach fired in Bears
In
history
season,
in season. The Bears did do him wrong by having him do that Zoom at the end. We ripped him to shreds. We did, I did, you did, everybody did, every chance we got. So I don't know that he deserves all of that, and fans can do whatever they want, but I would prefer not to see Flus get treated horribly on Sunday. I'll just put it that way.
Caleb said it twice on Wednesday. We're past that. And the
Yeah.
whole idea was the page is turned and everybody else has got to turn it with us.
Daniel, what to watch? What should we be watching for the Bears and Cowboys Sunday at Soldier Field?
Number one is the easiest thing that we've ever had to watch for on what to watch in these game preview segments. It's the defensive recovery and how do you bounce back after giving up 52 points and 511 yards and 7 touchdowns in Detroit? And how do you bounce back when the guys that we talked about, the key starters, Edwards and Johnson and Gordon, aren't going to be playing for you? And so Dennis Allen is going to have to earn his paycheck on Sunday, and he's going to have to figure out a way to position this team for the type of success it needs against a veteran quarterback with a lot of targets. You know, we talked earlier in the week about the combination of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Jake Ferguson as a tight end, giving Dak plenty of options when that football gets moving. And so what are they going to do? And I don't know. I was out in the hallway talking to offensive assistants this morning when Dennis Allen was talking. What did you make of kind of his manner, I guess, on Thursday, as well as the vision that he expressed for getting this thing cleaned up quickly?
Well, yeah, again, he was desirous of moving on to they didn't really want to dwell. Of course, we were going to dwell. He was asked a question specifically, Dan, about the issues in the secondary, and then he immediately generalized that. I got a chance to ask a question to him, and I said, okay, well, is it that easy to just move past a game in which your defense gives up 52 points? Was this just a fluke? Was it an aberration? I think was the exact word that I used. And then he kind of was like, oh, well, no, it's not that easy to put something like that away. And there's lots that we can learn from it. But in terms of like giving anything specific about it, he generalized a lot. He did say of Montez Sweat that, that they want to give him more one-on-one opportunities, but the indication there from him is at some point in time, Montez Sweat just has to start winning his one-on-one battles. Anytime he gets that opportunity, I think that reading between the lines, that's what I heard from him talking about Montez Sweat today.
And I think we talked about it the other day that this defensive line isn't just made up of nobodies right now. You've got a highly paid star on one side. You've got another guy that you paid a lot of money to this offseason in Dio Dengbo. You've got a veteran like Grady Jarrett who's done this before. You've got Javon Dexter who's a second-round pick. And so, like, at some point you need return on investment on all those guys. And it needs to come at least a little bit on Sunday if the Bears are going to have any chance of getting to 1-2. And so that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I look at some of the guys on the roster for Dallas, some similarities, like veteran guys like Kenny Clark, Dante Fowler Jr., Trayvon Diggs, who we know has been victimized, Osu Odigizua as well. Nailed it. Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know if he's going to be able to play this week, but I think Jadeveon Clowney thinks he could play, probably be on a snap count, but they, like the Bears, got that talent. So, they got names, but they just haven't been able to put it together. And the Sam Williams as well, the left defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys.
And they've got Jack Sanborn.
That's right. They do have Jack Sanborn. Absolutely. We should have asked if it was going to be awkward to see Jack Sanborn on Sunday.
Everybody will be happy to see Jack. Jack was a good Bear. Moving on, Grody. We'll take you on to the second thing to watch Sunday, and it's the usage of the tight ends. It's Cole Kmet, it's Colston Loveland. It's the Bears' ability to call plays that get those guys active. It's the quarterback's ability to utilize those guys when they're open. I went back through Sunday's video on Monday and Tuesday, and you could count at least a half dozen times where one of those two tight ends was available to Caleb Williams, and he turned him down for whatever reason. And so at some point, a tight end friendly coach like Ben Johnson with a tight end friendly offense needs to have the tight ends be friendly to the quarterback. And when they are friendly to the quarterback's got to use them. I would imagine that Sunday would provide some of those opportunities, particularly against Matt Eberflus's defense. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they get that part of this passing offense unlocked, because it needs to get unlocked if they're going to go anywhere where they want to go this year.
No doubt about it. What is your number 3 thing to watch, Dan?
The third thing to watch is a weird one this week, but it's worth us talking about because it's the fact that Tom Brady, Tom, Tom Brady, he's going to be up there in the broadcast booth for Fox, and he's going to be on the color of this game. And then he's going to be the next week, he's going to be part of an Oakland Raiders team that he is a minority owner for, and he can potentially provide some intel for. And so it's been a national story this week, Grote, about whether Tom Brady's conflict of interest between being a color commentator for Fox and being a competitive minority owner for a team creates some weirdness in this whole dynamic. We're going to hear from Ben in a minute, but I'm just curious how you've reacted to this whole thing, understanding what the dynamics of this are and how weird they seem to be.
I mean, it's ridiculous, and of course, it is exactly a conflict of interest. My conspiracy theory is that Tom Brady is just trying to sabotage himself because he's not the best analyst. I actually like his work as an analyst, but I don't think he is the best at it. So I think that this is his slow move out of the analyst chair into just being the competitive minority owner of the Raiders who meets with the head coach 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, there's really no gray area here, Dan. I mean, it's a conflict of interest. And quite frankly, even if Tom Brady is not using it, there's stuff that he may hold back on in the broadcast. And when you start to insult the sensibilities of the viewers and the fans, that's the biggest problem of them all, quite frankly.
So I've got some more thoughts on this, but we'll hear from Ben Johnson first, because he was asked 2 questions on Wednesday about this whole dynamic and this concept. And I thought there was some good back and forth here that we can riff on the backside of this. Here's Ben Johnson on the whole situation.
You have Tom Brady on the call this week, and he's affiliated with the Raiders, obviously, who you play next week. Are you going to do that pre-production meeting and get careful kind of how much you divulge?
I mean, I've been careful everything I've said since the season started. I've been in pure coach speak mode. Started. So to me, it's just business as usual. I'm just fine. I like Tom, and we have a really good relationship. So
you've got one of the most competitive people in the history of the sport prying around for information in a very paranoid world. How do you reconcile the conflict of interest that exists with the whole situation?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm really not worried about it. I mean, we change week to week in terms of what we do. Schematically, he's going to be able to turn on the tape and see what everyone else in the world's seeing right now. Personnel-wise, really the same thing. It's not like I'm going to sit down with him and tell, hey, don't do this to Caleb Williams or you might get it. Like, I'm not going to – there's not going to be any trade secrets that are going to be exchanged. But I really don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
Grady, I loved everything Ben said there. If only it was 100% genuine, then I would agree fully with him, because these coaches have this hypocrisy where they're like, oh, it's not that big a deal. We're not worried about it. Everything that's out there is already on film. And yet you'll go out to practice and they'll tell the still camera photographers that you got to put your camera down. Oh God, don't take that picture. You got to get that down. Somebody might get a hold of that image, and it's a competitive disadvantage for us if you do that. And there's all these steps taken to protect the competitive advantage that they feel they have inside the building. And yet you've got a minority owner of another team who, by the way, played almost his entire career for an organization that was known for pushing the rules to the very limit and possibly beyond at times. And he's walking into production meetings every week, asking questions and trying to gain insight into your team. And then he's going to play your team next week. And so I wish it was this goes back to like when teams have a quarterback that's injured and they're really not letting anybody know whether that guy's going to start on Sunday. And if you're in the other building, you're like, oh, we don't care. We're preparing for both of them. It's not that big of a deal. But if it's in your building, you're taking every effort to put on this, shroud of mystery so that nobody can figure it out. And so this is weird dynamic that goes on in this league where coaches are constantly paranoid. They won't admit their paranoia. Then they claim that they're not paranoid. And so like the last part of that Ben answer, like put it on a plaque out here in the hallway and just be like, there's nothing that I can tell them that's going to help them win a game. And then let's just move on with the whole thing. Right.
Right. Well, honestly, Dan, I think the reason in part that Ben answered the question the way he did, and why many coaches would answer it that way is because they're afraid of Tom Brady. I mean, there's a healthy fear factor, right? I mean, this is a powerful man. This is the GOAT. This is Mr. Competition. He's the greatest. So, and he's $350 million. He's a minority owner. He has a top analyst job. He's Tom Brady. It's a healthy fear. And nobody's going to get up there and break bad on Tom Brady and say it's ridiculous and it's a conflict of interest. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I think there's probably some semblance of that, right? Like just an understanding of the pecking order and the totem pole of this league in some regard.
Why would you want to get on Tom Brady's bad side? It just doesn't seem like a smart thing to do.
It's probably not, because it'll unleash that competitive side. By the way, just married up with this, I'm going to play that first part of that last clip again really quickly, because Courtney Cronin just left the building from ESPN 1000, from ESPN in general. And her laugh when Ben talked about being in coach speak mode really got me. Let's hear that again really quick.
You have Tom Brady on the call this week. He's affiliated with the Raiders, obviously, who you play next week. Are you going to do that pre-production meeting and get careful kind of how much you divulge?
I mean, I've been careful everything I've said since the season started. I've been in pure coach speak mode. Started, so to me, it's just been.
And the townspeople, they laughed.
That's why I love this podcast, because we can take a step back every once in a while, have a good laugh after a bouncy, edgy day out here.
I mean, look, laughs are important. It's intense out here. It's tense out here, man. I mean, we don't want to go through all the losing seasons that Dan has covered, and I now as well. I mean, the years are starting to rack up for me in my time on the beat as well. So when there is levity, when there's a chance to laugh, there's almost like a relief factor, I think, in the room, and I think that's part of it. So good for Ben and Ben wasn't laughing, by the way. We were all laughing. So he was trying to keep it all serious, but we got a good chuckle out of it.
124 losses, if you were keeping count for the number of losses, including the playoffs that I've covered while on the beat here. So,
oh my God, I'm so sorry that you figured that out. So you're like sitting at home one day and you're like, oh, it's exactly how bad has it been? 124 losses.
Kevin Fishbane brought me that number. By the way, we talked about the tight ends a minute ago. Kevin wrote a nice piece on the tight end usage at theathletic.com. Find your way there and read that bad boy. And then we've got something that'll marry up with that here, I think, coming up in our next little segment here.
Oh, okay. We ready for it? Have you gotten we got our what to watch? Everything satisfied there, Dan? You good?
It's all satisfied. We brought up Jack Sanborn. It's time to move on.
Sandsy. All right. It's time for our best bet segment. The best bet segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. What do we got today?
We've got Cole Kmet, anytime touchdown, plus 400, and we're taking it. It's the best bet of the week. We're talking about tight end usage. We believe that the Bears are going to be able to get tight ends involved more. You can just envision it, can't you, Grote? Cole Kmet visiting that north end zone at Soldier Field. I'm going to be very specific with you here. And scoring his first touchdown and doing the home run swing that sends that ball deep into the stands. Cole Kmet, anytime touchdown. You in?
I like it. I'm in. I'm in. Although I would take 2 from Colston Loveland for the sake of Colston Loveland as well. I mean, I want us to be right. I want the things that we do to be right. But actually, what am I saying? Either tight end to get on and be a real factor in the game would be excellent.
We gave 2 best bets last week with rushing totals for Jahmyr Gibbs and DeAndre Swift. They both hit. So
how about that? See,
let's get a little streak rolling. Let's get something rolling here.
All right. The best bet segment that you just heard was brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And now, the moment of truth. Our predictions for the Bears and the Dallas Cowboys from Soldier Field on Sunday, where it's going to be 75 and cloudy and apparently limited wind because they practice indoors to simulate what they feel it's going to be like at Soldier Field. Dan, I think you went first last week, so would you like to go first again, or would you like me to go first this week? Doesn't matter to me.
I'm going to defer, and then you can choose.
And then you'll go 3 and out to begin the third quarter. Fair enough, Dan. I'm sorry to do it, but I am picking the Dallas Cowboys to win this game against the Bears, and it's pretty simple for me. And I'm going to go 27-24. So I'm going to keep it at 3. We talked about it. The guys that didn't prep, they're not going to see Kyler Gordon. You're not going to see TJ Edwards. You're not going to see Jalen Jones. You're not going to see Jalen Johnson. And we saw what a big problem it was once they were exposed. I mean, it's going to require Tyreek Stevenson to have a stellar game and Nashawn Wright to be great out there, and Dak Prescott, who we've been talking about, and even Ben Johnson said it, that through these couple of games, like he's playing like one of the best players in the NFL right now, especially relative to the game against the New York Giants, where he threw for 361 yards and 2 TDs. I understand I'm hearing shootout a lot from people. I get it, but guess what? I think the Dallas Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb and their weapons, right? So you mentioned them before, George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. They are at this point in the season more equipped to put up the bigger points than the Chicago Bears offense is. So I like Dallas by 3 in this game, 27-24.
I've got a very similar score to you. You made a lot of sense there, Grote. You said a lot
what I try to do.
Things that resonate with me. I think the Bears defense is shaky and it's depleted. I think that the offense is inconsistent and trying to find its footing. I think that home field disadvantage might be in play this week because of how edgy this crowd is going to be at the first sign of duress for this football team. And so there's a lot of things working against the Bears. And yet, I'm giving you Bears 27, Cowboys.
Whoa! I didn't see that coming, Dan.
It's a surprise M. Night Shyamalan twist here late in the program. And Grote, it's a leap of faith pick, and it's an if not now pick, right? If not now, then when? If you're not going to be able to win a home game against an opponent that you match up favorably with, when? Right? Like what's going to happen from here? And given the schedule that awaits the Bears upcoming. And so it's a leap of faith, but it's a leap of faith I'm willing to take here in late September that the Bears give us all a little bit to be hopeful about with a victory Sunday by the lakefront. And then we don't have to revisit that whole ability of Matt Eberflus outwitting Ben Johnson that will send all of Chicago into a frenzy on Monday.
Well, and I should add to mine. Well, good for you. I hope that you are correct on this one, but I should have added that our new name for the podcast, maybe someday, let's just hope that I do believe it will be a normal loss. It will nothing cray is going to happen. There won't be any missed field goals. There's not going to be like crazy numbers. I think it's going to be, and I'm talking quietly because I'm not confident. I think it's going to be a normal loss.
Somebody clip this whole segment. Somebody clip the idea that I picked the Bears in this game and give it to these people on the social medias that are yelling at me and calling me things. I was called the C word a couple times this week, Mark, and that was not really. It had nothing to do with culture. And so there is some edgy people out there on the social media that have to understand that I am giving a vote of confidence.
Look at you. You're kissing up to everybody, man. You're leaving me hanging out there. I'm going to get the comments in my face now, but it is what it is. The pick has been made. The Bears, unfortunately, will be 0-3, and that's
in the name of George Halas, George Stanley Halas, and Coach Ditka, and Walter Payton, and Richard Dent, and here's Rex Grossman.
Oh yeah, there he is. There he is. I
Rex.
I see it. He looks extra sexy. Sexy
Devin
Rexy.
Hester, Daniel Manning, Robbie Gould, Lovey, Mark Tressman.
Oh God, what did you call that thing? It's a
mosaic. A mosaic bear. Mosaic bear. There's Hilgi.
Oh, Hilgi, 6-time Pro Bowler for the Bears, a center.
Mark Carrier,
number 63.
I see Jimbo.
Carrier at 8 picks in his rookie years. Yeah, right about Mark Carrier.
Urlacher.
No, 10. And they get double digits. Number 54.
10. It was 10.
Yeah, it was 10. Yeah, it was 10. He was a great Bear for a couple of years.
Dave Dorson, Sean Gale.
Double D, number 22. That is correct. Dan, I could do this all day, but I think you and I deserve to walk out of Halas Hall right now. So unless there's anything else, Dan, that you would like to add, I'm getting ready.
Walter Payton.
There he is.
Jim Harbaugh.
Matsui.
Cat Williams. They're all in the most. Dave Wanstead.
It's a mosaic. Even Wani makes it in there. This has been fun. I'd say this has been a bouncy version of the Take the North podcast, which are the best versions of the Take the North podcast. And just remember, Dan Wiederer picked the Bears to win on Sunday at Soldier Field. He is Danny Sunshine. For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic and a frequent contributor right here on The Score, I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. For our executive producer, the married Adam Studzinski. I'm Mark Grote saying thank you for listening. Thank you for watching the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.